I'm Kirsten Williams, a beef and sheep consultant with SAC Consulting. Management at calving time and actually impacts next year's production as well, so it's vitally important that the cows are managed appropriately. You want to make sure that your cows are weaned at least 5 weeks pre-calving, just to make sure that the colostrum that is being produced is all for the next calf. Colostrum is hugely vital for that newborn calf, and we're looking for it to get the colostrum in quickly and a good quantity of colostrum in. We're making sure that their surroundings are hygienic. So we're trying to limit the amount of bacteria that's within the calving shed. Some producers are actually cleaning out weekly or fortnightly through calving time. They're cleaning out the bedding and they're re-disinfecting, and always disinfecting the calving pens as well. It's really important that, as well as having the colostrum and limiting the bacteria, that navels are treated with iodine. Now, some folk will actually treat them twice, which again, it just really helps minimise the risk of any infections getting up that navel. We want to make sure that the calving area is as clean as possible. Think about building maintenance so that there's no leaking gutters, that there's no leaking water troughs, that the bedding is completely clean. Now, bedding is an expense that goes with winter systems with cattle and calving indoors. But the benefits that you get off of the good hygiene from the calves and the cost of the straw far outweighs the benefits.
Producers should spend some time thinking about maximising live calves at calving time at this time of year, and there's probably 4 key areas to focus on. Number 1 would be nutrition of the cow in late pregnancy. There's still plenty of time for most spring calving systems to do a metabolic profile. What that'll do is check the energy status is okay, protein status is okay, and some of the key minerals that they need for a smooth calving are being supplied by the ration. It's not overly difficult to do that, and the results, of course, should be discussed both with your vet and your nutritionist, and any tweaks made now to make for an easier calving, rather than waiting until we maybe see some problems at the start. So that would be number 1. Second thing I would look to think about is how our handling facilities are set up for calving. Lots of us, and now increasingly, handling facilities are getting better, but they should always be reviewed each year, just for small tweaks here and there, and think about whether even something as simple as a calving gate could make things safer for everybody on farm and better for the cows and calves under our care. So just a quick thought toward facilities. Point number 3 is probably about how well is the team set up for intervention when it's needed. Of course, the target's always that a cow will calve by herself, and that calf will stand up and suck by itself. But when that doesn't happen and they need our intervention, how well trained is our team to deal with that? There's a fantastic resource from SAC Consulting and SRUC Vet Services, which is a lovely poster, very simple. You could read it in 2 or 3 minutes. It will guide you through what factors to assess when you're intervening at calving, and critically when to seek extra help, typically by phoning your vet. So I would advise all teams pre-calving to sit with that poster and read it, chat about it for 10 or 15 minutes, and make sure everyone's agreed as to when we intervene and how we intervene, and when do we need extra assistance from our vet. And then finally, if I can add one more, it would be to take care of colostrum. Probably one of the most significant factors for the survival and onward growth of that calf is the first feed. So we'd be looking for vigorous sucking for at least 20 minutes of a newborn calf in the first hours of life. And if for any reason that has not taken place, and it's particularly likely not to not happen if we've intervened at calving, giving any level of assistance, then ensure that calf receives 3 litres of clean, high quality colostrum within 2 hours of life. So the KPIs to think about at calving time, you want to decide, you can't write down nothing, okay, that's just not allowed, so I'm not going to permit anybody to write down nothing, but you can get a bronze medal if you just write down the minimum. And the minimum is to write down calf survival. So we need to record carefully in a book somewhere that you can get back to it, how many animals abort in late gestation, hopefully a low number, how many stillborn calves, calves dying in the first week and calves dying older than that. That's really essential and absolutely critical if we want our system to be robust and have a chance of improving. That's probably the minimum data we need. So you get a bronze medal if you at least write that down for us. For the silver medal, I would suggest we could also record calf health incidents, so any incidents of diarrhoea or pneumonia, scour and pneumonia, which are the major two, we could record them. And if you record them, which calf and when, then you'll get a silver medal. And for the gold medal, to do everything, then some cow data as well would be good. So level of calving intervention, whether an animal retains fetal membranes, etc., is sort of another layer of data monitoring that we could do at this time of year. Producers can try to prevent scour and pneumonia in calves really by focusing on two or three things. Number one's colostrum, by a mile. The single most important factor in prevention of scours and pneumonias is to ensure adequate colostrum uptake. I would think about speaking to your vet and even putting in a check on colostrum after the first week or 10 days of calving. Let's blood sample a few calves if it's safe to do so and check them for their level of colostrum uptake. It's so important that I think we should be very engaged in monitoring that. So that's number one. Number two is the environment, so ensuring that those calves are in a clean environment. That's particularly important for scours. So if we're indoor calving, plenty of straw or bedding, and protecting or prioritising those newest young calves in particular, less of an issue hopefully outside. And then air quality. It's already very high risk to have an adult cow beside her very young baby calf in an indoor environment, because all of the bugs that cause pneumonia will be coming from the adult cow and moving towards that calf. Outside, of course, there's wind and fresh air, gets rid of them, but in an indoor environment that's high risk. So we need as high air quality as possible, good throughput of fresh air, avoiding strong drafts, so looking to reduce pathogen burden by fresh air. And then the last one is to think about isolation. Should an outbreak start, it's not always possible to pull out the sick one. That can be really challenging, but if we could at least not put new young animals into a pen that's already suffering, then that's very advisable. That those next 4 or 5 to calve ideally would go somewhere else, or at least be on the other side of a gate if there's a scour outbreak.